My name is Don Oscar Miro-Quesada Solevo el Tercero. Yet ultimately, I'm just a friendly holographic projection of the need of the viewer to see a teacher of universal shamanism as a means of accessing their own inner shamanic soul. Shamanism, as you well know, is a fundamentally soul animated lifeway, not only a healing practice. It is a return to the way that our ancestors understood this soul animated reality that we call our sentient, loving Gaia Pachamama, our Mother Earth, and our relationship to her in a balanced manner is fundamental for the flourishing and thriving of beauty, light, and love within the heart of humankind. And that is what I dedicate my life to, restoring sacred trust between humankind and the natural world in a manner that is a beautifying and sanctifying medicine for the heart of humankind.
Oh, that is just delicious.
That's who I see myself as, yet ultimately, I prefer not to have any static definition of a process, an unfolding, because it's ever changing, as you well know. The only constant in life is change and transformation, and shamanism is all about honoring that flow, that flux. So, in a sense, I'm a shapeshifter. Yet, I wouldn't call myself a shaman because the only shamans I know are those in tribal communities that are mostly past now, but I'm a practitioner of cross-cultural shamanism. Yet to call myself a shaman, only my community can call me a shaman if they want, but I would never do that.
Oh, wow. Well, what is a shaman?
A shaman is he or she who walks gently, speaks softly, and who loves passionately all sentient beings, seen and unseen in the world, of form and the world beyond form. A person who is a walker between worlds, my dearest Valerie, just like you are. A person who is magical, a person who believes in the power of the imagination to beneficently influence the larger social order in which we live. Hence, a dreamer, but a dreamer that has concrete archetypes that are living within that dream that other people could relate to, can identify with. Archetypes such as that of the great goddesses and gods of the past, of those inspiring figures that we encounter in our dreaming during our nighttime, as well as in our reverie and meditative practice during the day. Those guides and those ancestral inspirational figures that we all know by name and sometimes only in form. It could be you, it could be me. Shamanism is an inherent, universal, human quality of being. That's the best way I could situate your response to your question, my love.
Oh my goodness, that is delicious. You know, the shamans that I have been with, I can think of 4 that are just masters. 3 are in Peru and 1 in Virginia. He's a druid, and he leads an incredible ritual every year that I've been honored to attend a few times. None of the shamans ever called themselves shamans. That's very interesting. I did not put that together until you said it. Why would that be?
Well, the term shaman is Tungusic, or from the Siberian, Tungusic Siberian area of Russia. So we're talking about a millennial tradition that if you want to be politically correct, should only be referred to as shamanism by the practitioners in that region of the world, in the Siberian area of the one Soviet Union, and therefore adopting it would mean that we are, in a sense, claiming that we have the same originating source as the Aboriginal peoples of that part of the world. And so a lot of practitioners of shamanism have a love-hate relationship with the term. Samang in Tungusic language means he or she who is a master of fire, as well as he or she who communes and is allowed to be possessed by spirits. And therefore, not all shamanic practice in today's world involves that. Most of the shamanic practitioners that I know of, urban shamans, neo-shamans, even those that have had formal apprenticeship in traditional indigenous paths, rarely have cultivated the skill to allow themselves to be possessed by the spirits of the ancestors and allow these spirits to work through them as a hollow bone, as an instrument of healing, and step out of the way completely, which is key to truly being the medicine that the world needs, not inserting yourself, your ego mind, and your identity into anything, but being that empty, hollow vessel for the manifestation of a power much greater than one's own individual self to work through you in service to the well-being of individuals and our planetary biosphere as a whole. We are basically just servants of the divine.
That's a very intriguing word. Intriguing. So, how did you come upon this path? What happened? Or did you just born in it and keep going? What occurred?
There's many ways of answering that inquiry, that question, my love. I would say that it was my soul's destiny, my dharma, the purpose of this current incarnation for me to do what I do. Yet, that said, I also dedicated myself to a formal apprenticeship in what's known as kamasqa curanderismo, or Peruvian folk healing of the northern coast of Peru, as well as the southeastern highland region of Peru, known as Pacocuna shamanism. I had two mentors, and I began my formal mentorship with Don Celso Rojas Palomino in Peru, in the northern coast in 1969, and that lasted until his passing in 1982. Every year I would go down there and spend at least 2 months, mostly all of the summer time, because I was a student in university here in the United States at the time. So when I returned to Peru, it was during that summer break. And so I would go up there and work in his sugar canes and be apprenticed in his mesadas, his Tuesday and Friday night healing seances, which involved the communion with our plant relative known as San Pedro or Wachuma. It is a mescaline-based visionary plant sacrament that is used in these healing gatherings that involve the entire community, families, and the like. When he passed in 82, then through my work I was doing with the Organization of American States in creating a mainstreaming folk healing into the national public health care system, I met Don Benito Corihuaman Vargas, which is a direct Inca descendant from the Inca peoples, of Peru that lived near in a village called Huasao outside of Cusco. And there he apprenticed me for 4 years, less formal than my first apprenticeship with Don Celso, in what's known as earth honoring ritual practices. Learning how to do mijuxangus, the feeding of the earth through offerings, jaiwas, prayers, and the use of cocaquintus to commune in reciprocity with the unseen world that inhabits the great glacial mountain peaks, or apus, the deities within them in Peru. So I had both the great fortune of apprenticing in how to heal individuals through the northern coastal tradition, and how to enter into a resonant, sanctified relationship with our living earth, and enter into a relationship of Aini, of sacred reciprocity, with the spirit beings that inhabit the natural landscape shrines that are in the highlands of Peru. I merged those two into what I've termed the Pachacuti Mesa tradition of cross-cultural shamanism, which is a blending of both of these paths that also has sprinklings of many other Gnostic, Hermetic, and mystery school traditions in them that I was always passionate about as a youth. And I would say that I had a couple of experiences that were pivotal and humbling, that did not involve any type of direct influence from my teachers, but that they were my own like near-death experiences and encounters with the sacred dimension of life through ingestion of our plant relative medicines. And these also deepened my ability to use my vista, which is our inner sight, our clairvoyance, for diagnostic, divinatory, as well as healing purposes. And these occurred over time. Of course, it didn't all come at once. It would be overwhelming if it were the case. Yet over time, I learned how to enhance the skills of using my energy body to help people restore wholeness in their lives. So it's been a journey, and will continue to be a journey, because, as you well know, this lifetime is but a blip on a larger screen of opportunities that await the immortality of our soul.
Indeed. And I snap my fingers because I'm currently in Luxor, Egypt, where I have been. Yes, I'm sitting literally on the Nile River. Like, if you open this curtain here, there's a big picture window, and it goes right out there and the Nile River is literally like steps away.
I know it
And
well.
so
I've been there a couple of times.
Oh my goodness.
It's fascinating.
I have no words for the experience. And so I've been here for almost a month. And as you mentioned, as you speak of our life and our dharma, and that we're not here to be here forever. We're here for a purpose. And I'm right across from the Valley of the Kings, where the resting place of some of the greatest pharaohs, and also the Valley of the Queens, where they wanted to be put so that they could be prepared for their continuing life. And they're in the West, and they talk about going to the West where the sun sets. And so, because the sun is going to set for all of us, this avatar, right, as we call it, this avatar, and then our continuing consciousness will continue on its great, vast experience. What do you hope to accomplish in this lifetime? Or would you say that your dharma is fulfilled doing what you're doing now? Or would you say there's more to unfold? Well, I guess there's always more to unfold. What say you about this life and then the continuing on life?
to teach love by the way I live. That is the essence of my existence. The more I can embody unadulterated, unlimited, unhindered munai, deep compassive feeling, empathy, extending myself in caring for others beyond what I need to do for myself. To walk that way in life is what my soul has been, took form in this particular incarnational period for. It is love, in my opinion, is the ultimate medicine. And it is much needed on planet right now. So the more I can teach love by the way I live, the more I am fulfilling my dharma. So my sadhana, my spiritual practice, always involves rituals, ceremonies, meditations, inner journey work that seeks to enhance and amplify my ability to be an expression of love, capital L, because it's not just human love that we're talking about. It is allowing the love of creation and her ways to move through oneself in service of others. That's what I see happening. So to me, death is just another bardo, another realm of consciousness. My dear grandfather, who was a hardcore scientist and materialist,
Oh, wow.
had and thought that my incursions into these spiritual domains was something that, he was of the notion that religion was the opiate of the people. He was very Marxist in that way, which I kind of agree with.
Yeah, I think I kind of agree with that too.
Yet, from the point of view of, he did have this saying. He said, "La muerte nos devuelve lo que nos quitó la vida," meaning life returns to us. Death returns to us what life took away. Now, if you think about this, that's pretty profound for a materialist, right? And for a scientist. Death returns to us what life took away. In other words, when we make our transition from this three-dimensional realm of consensus reality into a much more expansive and unlimited realm of awareness, we return home. We're back home.
Mm-hmm.
And many of the Egyptian pharaohs and queens that you see buried in these areas, especially I'm sure you've been to Seti the First's tomb, which is, in my opinion, the most fabulous resting place a human being could have, at least the body of a human being, with the star canopy and everything there. They understood the law of correspondence, the great Hermetic law of as above, so below, and as below, so above, and as within, so without, and as the self, so the universe. So these understandings were all executed in exquisite artistic detail within their tombs as an abode that mimicked the next life that they would be going to, as you well know. In a similar fashion, the mummification practices of all the world's traditions sought that same type of immortality, right? All we're doing as humans is replicating what we knew before we became two-legged embodiments of the divine on planet.
Mm-hmm. Did you know that this world would require what you offer in this time? Because I'm sure your soul must have timed it, huh? I get the sense that my soul timed all of this. So do you have that sense that not only your dharma, the timing too of what the planet, I heard you say what the planet needs now?
In my early years, I had many glimpses of it because, I mean, if people are interested in my background, they can pick up Lessons in Courage. It's a book that I wrote, co-wrote with an anthropologist, Bonnie Glass Coffin, the leading world's expert in female folk healers of Peru. She's a professor of
Wow.
cultural
I'll
anthropology.
make sure to link it below the YouTube vid.
Yeah. So she basically interviewed me, and this book came out about my life and my future service work. Yet, in that book, if you want real details, you could find what I'm going to try to encapsulate in a couple of sentences, which is this. Um, I grew up in a very dysfunctional family that required me to be the rescuer of a lot of unhealthy behaviors in the adults that were my caretakers, my primary caretakers. And and I also experienced, sexual abuse by my half brother that resulted in some acting out of my own that was not healthy when I got a little older. And over time, I learned about my own shadow, my own darkness, and I embraced it with gusto because
Mm.
I saw it as one of my main teachers. So I made many mistakes and I went off the path and then returned to the path many times over. It's like a person who has been in recovery for a while and, just has a relapse. This occurred over various moments of my young adulthood and middle adulthood until finally I got it straight, or maybe not straight, but I got it. I realized that these were all choices, that I had the power not to yield to the shadow, and that the
Mm.
shadow work I had done, as long as I took my inventory daily, honestly, and made amends where I had violated the relationship with others, I was free from having to resort to those old behaviors. So it's through the
Mm.
pain and anguish and the dismemberment I experienced in my life that I attained wholeness and completion and felt free to really follow my path as a healer. And as a result, I became somebody who shows up when I'm called.
Ah, ah, that isn't that one of the most powerful things we could do?
It's the only thing you can do. you know,
Just show up, just be there.
show up. And that said, there's also a need for some self-care where personally, I like to retreat to some mountain location or some, shore. I still
Mm.
am, I'm passionate about surfing. And so I go to
Oh,
Costa Rica
nice,
and other places when I can to surf.
nice.
That's my medicine.
Oh my goodness. Well, you get to be on with Yemaya, our great ocean mother, whenever you're
Ooh,
surfing, right? So that is a
exactly,
beautiful thing. That's lovely. That's
exactly.
lovely. What would you tell people who are having some kind of dark night of the soul, some kind of wrestling, grappling with the shadow? I heard you say earlier also that you help people with their health and their well-being. So, what would you say to someone who's in the grips of that right now? That maybe they're in the dark night of the soul, maybe they're in a sketchy place in their lives. One of those, as you call it, those moments where we were off the path and we didn't want to come back to the path. I had many of those moments, and I keep coming back to the path. Something keeps bringing us back to the path, right? So, what would you say to a person that's there and they haven't found their way back yet? Maybe they're just grappling and they haven't come back yet.
Well, as you well know, dear sister, it's very individual and personal. I don't have one generic um, directive or wisdom guidance I could offer. Um, Yet ultimately, all breakdowns are a potential breakthrough, as you well know, to use that cliche. So the first thing I would point out, and I'm trained in clinical psychology. That was my field of practice before I just dedicated myself to teaching fully. So I do bring that psychological dimension into my work as well. First thing I would do is encourage every soul that is experiencing a dismemberment of sorts to spend as much time as they can within a like-hearted community of equals, to find that support for their process. Because I have found that most psychopathology, 70% of all psychological distress, illness, or emotional despair is a rite of passage. It's an initiation of sorts, and therefore to situate one's encounter with the shadow as a rite of passage is fundamental. And the best way to start that is to do it in a natural environment where you can feel the heartbeat of our mother working on your behalf, together with a group of trusted individuals that form the alchemical hydrolith, the sulfic, the flask, so that you can really enter into the nigredo, into the blackening, into the breaking down, and then be brought back into the albedo, to the whitening, to the aurea catena, to the golden chain of initiation, as the colors of the peacock feather. Right? So this is the alchemical process that I see all encounters with the dark night of the soul to be an opportunity to initiate oneself as a soul into becoming a reflection of divinity in this world. Now, to do so requires some time, and it requires also patience, and it requires keen observation, and it requires a death. And therefore, the willingness to die before you actually physically make your transition is the best preparation for healing of mind, body, heart, soul, and spirit. That's where I would go. Once they're in a natural environment that they can feel the living earth moving through them, and they feel safe in the company of others, then it is time for them to go ahead and set a clear vision for what they will become after they go through that death rebirth process. And that's only up to that person. Yet the best way to do so is to get involved in some creative activity, some sort of artistic expression, be it dance, sculpture, painting, singing, rattling, making love. Anything that brings creation into one's life is the medicine that will set the sights of that person, their vista, their vision, as to that next level of becoming a soul embodied on earth. I hope this makes sense.
Absolutely. So this is really fascinating because I've never contextualized a dark night of the soul as an initiation. Really, I guess we could say it's an invitation to perhaps a higher place, more expanded space than what we were accustomed to, and something in us pulling us into or drawing us into this next greater thing, is there some kind of reluctance at the doorway? You know, we get to the doorway, a portal to the greater self, and it kind of like, like, because sometimes it doesn't look like what we thought it was going to look like, or it doesn't show up how we were expecting it. So is any of this adding up what I'm saying here? I don't really know exactly what I'm saying.
It's quite natural that resistance is quite natural when you're facing the unknown, right? In all people. So therefore, breath is a very important ally during those times. So, there's a saying that on their way to heaven, it's a Sufi saying, on their way to heaven, the saints are eaten alive, right? And
on the way to heaven, say that again now.
And on their way to heaven, the saints are eaten alive.
So that's
it's an old Sufi adage, and that means that when you have opened up to the divinity within yourself that seeks merging with the divinity that is creation as a whole, it's not going to be an easy process. You are food for the spirit world. The spirit world is going to come into you, and it's going to want to eat parts of you. The hungry ghosts are going to be around, and they're going to take little chunks of little bites off of you. Yet you understand that you're not that body, right? So therefore, go ahead. I lovingly give these parts of me, because ultimately what's going to be left is my true self, pure consciousness, without a physical form. The only reason we resist that type of transformation is because we are using our mind and our conditioning and our past understanding that we're safer within this static image of who we are in terms of surviving in the earth plane. Then we are capable of being beyond that, which is really a transcendent self, capital S. And so it's natural to resist the death and rebirth process that is entailed. Wine and dine the adversary is my suggestion. The devil, the adversary, is nothing else but your own self that is still having a temper tantrum because they don't want to grow up.
If we were to tell ourselves the absolute truth, right? If we were. So before we conclude this conversation, could you tell us a little bit about the plant medicine that you were speaking of earlier?
Well, yes, Trichucerius pachanoides is botanical name, or Trichucerius peruvianis, and it's a cactus, a columnar cactus that has the same alkaloid in it that the peyote button has. And it is used widely in Peru, especially in the northern and southern coastal areas. There's, archaeological evidence of its being used ceremonially by the pre-Columbian cultures of Peru since 2000 BC.
Wow.
The great temple site of Chavín de Huántar is full of the growing cactus, as well as there is depicted iconography in stone that shows the transformed priestesses and priests having taken the cactus, turning into serpents and into pumas and into condors, and always holding these staffs of cactus, right? So these medicines were used as an initiation to go into the inner chambers, into the subterranean chambers of the temple site there, where people would receive, much like the Eleusinian mysteries and the of the Greco-Roman and Paleo-Christian practitioners in the Mediterranean area, In the same fat, they used a kikian, which was a combination of other visionary plants. In the Andes of Peru, we use this San Pedro, commonly known as St. Peter or San Pedro cactus, because it has the keys to heaven, right? And so
Wow.
and it's done in a very sacrosanct and aligned with the traditional ways of our ancestors. It's not just done recreationally, of course. Yet it does open you up to an experience of communion with Source very rapidly. They're extremely helpful catalysts for the expansion of consciousness.
And that's Wakuma or Wachuma?
Wachuma.
Wachuma.
Wachuma. Wachuma is the common name. It goes by many names, but Wachuma or San Pedro.
San Pedro. San Pedro is you drink it?
San Pedro is the cactus, and the actual, it's very viscous, it's like almost, it's hard to get down. It's very green and it looks like a lot of mucus. And some people don't like it. I don't mind it.
It sounds like a lot of plant medicines, not particularly delicious.
So, yet it's also called Wando Hermoso, but Wachuma or San Pedro is its more common name.
Okay.
And whether it's cooked or whether it's in its raw form, it's referred to as Wachuma or San Pedro.
Okay, understood. And what would you say is the main reason that people come seeking this plant medicine? Because I know with ayahuasca, we've had a few ayahuasca experiences, and people have in their mind what they think the brew can do for them. And what do people think the plant can do for them?
The exact same things that somebody goes to an ayahuasca ceremony for. Clarity with life decisions that are pivotal at that moment, healing of body, healing of mind, ultimately reclaiming one's birthright as wholeness, as completion, as being enough the way you are, and not over demanding of yourself, a life that is beyond your lot, in a sense. Finding peace with who you are and who you choose to bring into your life.
Well, I am so happy that you came into my life. I am very happy about that. You know, I have met so many incredible beings since I said yes to this book. It was almost like the universe says, want to dance? You know, that's how I relate to the universe. It's like puts its hand out like want to dance. And you never know what the dance is going to be, or is it a tango? Is it a foxtrot? Is it a hustle? You know, what are we doing, universe? And it's always exquisite.
Ain't it so?
Always exquisite. Every time. Every time I say yes to the universe, it's exquisite. And it's so much more than I anticipated. So when I saw all of these incredible books, I thought, oh, I want to talk to all of them. That's what I thought in my mind. I want to talk to all of them.
And you are. Aren't they?
Talk to all of you all.
Are you still there? Yeah.
Yes. Mm-hmm. I'm getting to talk to all of you. So I'm so thankful about that. So tell us about your book and when it is released and all of that.
Well, as you well know through Sacred Stories, there's a series of books that our dear sister Ariel has had the vision to support their emergence on planet as catalysts of human spiritualization as well, and bringing the divine back into the world of matter. And so I found that very inspiring. And when she reached out to me to see if I was willing to be one of the featured authors, I gladly accepted. So I just completed the manuscript that is now in her hands for print. The book is called Shamanism, Personal Quests of Communion with Nature and Creation. And that is going to be available on October 21st, which is next month. And it is, as you well know, being an author yourself on witch, it starts out with an introduction to that field or to that experience. Then it's followed by several stories submitted by other people who have had encounters, let's say, with, in my case, with shamanic reality that has transformed their lives in a beneficent manner, and including our own stories of that type of experience. That's the middle of the book. The end of the book usually involves some practices, some experiential methods in which to actually move into the experience of the phenomena that each book is addressing. So I found it to, in my case, writing this book on shamanism was like traveling through the three worlds, the upper, the middle, and the lower. And it became a process of my own evolution. It was my own evolutionary process. So I wrote it both to be informative and to introduce people to shamanism as if those that are neophytes or aren't practitioners yet it also has some very deep teachings in it for people that are seasoned in the shamanic ways and that are looking to enhance their own experience as practitioners. And then, of course, there were remarkable stories that were submitted by people who had truly, authentically, genuinely experienced deep, deep healing and transformation by befriending the unseen world of spirit, in which shamanic ancestors took the form of animal allies or trees or stones and spoke to them and revealed what their true purpose was in life. And so it's become very inspiring of a journey. And I'm hoping that as one of the many books that are going to be part of this now seemingly encyclopedic offering of mysticism and sacred teachings in the world, that it serves to enhance and amplify all earnest aspirants of the great work in their dedication to shape-shifting the ills of humankind and restoring the ways of our ancient ones on planet.
Really an incredible vision that Ariel shared with me about the books in the Common Sentience book series. And I don't think I've ever seen a book series like this, done this way. I don't think I've ever seen it.
I agree.
And it has been really a divinely orchestrated unfoldment. All of the conversations I've been able to have so far with the authors and more to come, and bringing these stories in video form too. We have the book is in written form, and to hear from the authors too and see who the author is and hear the author's voice, because when you're reading a book, you don't get to see the author, you don't get to hear the author unless it's an audio book read by the author, right? So to pair these conversations with the books feels like an experience of wholeness. And it satisfies my curiosity too, because I'm super curious about everything. Everything. So
you're a child like I am. It's so important to be wondrous, struck by awe, and always curious. Always keep it green. Never become an expert. Always a student. And children are the ideal students, right?
They are. So tell us how we can get a hold of you. And we're going to link it all up below this video. How would you want people to reach out to you?
By going to www.theheartofthehealer.org. The Heart of the Healer. I founded the Heart of the Healer, and well, I started the Heart of the Healer in, when was it? 86. But then it became a not-for-profit in 2000, and then in 2014, we decided to go just make it a school, a mystery school. So it's the Heart of the Healer Shamanic Mystery School, and that's when we are offering courses and trainings and apprenticeships. And I have 24 sanctioned teachers in the tradition of the Pachacuti Mesa cross-cultural shamanism. People interested in this type of work can just visit the website, and they'll have a plethora, an abundance of guidance and information that will make their choice of what areas to study even easier. So thank you for allowing me to bring people into the field, into the great sacred rainbow tribe that we are co-creating.
Oh, lovely. And thank you, Oscar, for giving us your time, your attention, your loving presence and essence. You can feel that your life is about love. You can feel it, and we know it. Would you like to close us with a blessing or a prayer of some sort?
Yes, I'd very much enjoy that if we have a moment. I ask us all to just go within, please. Take a couple of deep breaths, bringing your awareness to the Khatum Songo, to your universal heart, a heart that is unbounded, expanded, open, and fearlessly free to be all worlds, times, and places that summon thee. And I shall share the final paragraph in the book Shamanism through SacredStories, and it's called Becoming One in the Garden. Allow these words to reverberate within your open heart. Thus we remember once again through our memory of the original oath, first spoken, then summoned, as we became one in the garden. May this be heard by all those in heaven and earth, donning ears that yield subtle celestial resonances, souls able to embrace a purposeful life mirrored in creation, eternally free of the fears and limitations of long ago disillusionment. To such souls I have been sanctioned to write these words. Those who have mastered the harmonics that praise the music of the spheres, that are moved by sweetly betrothed divine whisperings, the graces of truth revealed when listened through the heart, will hear with their gift of faith made flesh. A promising vision of light, love, and healing offered from above, I have been asked to bequeath below. And here we stand together, trusted children of Mother Earth, in another time and another place, again offered the beauty, bounty, and blessing of becoming one in the garden. The choice is ours.
Delicious. Ashe. Thank you.
Highly, thank you so much, my beloved sister. Looking forward to meeting you in the flesh.